No, not you. You! Look, I have a severe character flaw. Actually, I probably have several, but that's for another time. The character flaw in question here is that I just can't stand when people are openly wrong. It hurts me. It genuinely causes me pain. Okay, as an example, I heard about Terrence Howard for the first time recently, and I am still upset. I'm not necessarily upset that this guy is being given a platform as often as he is. Well, I am. But I think what upsets me most is just that he's wrong. It seems like even most people agree that he's wrong, but even just the chance that some people might agree with him or be led astray by his nonsense irks me. Which is stupid because why in hell should I care? But for whatever reason, I do. Now, to make this actually relevant to myself, I've been anxiously checking my YouTube videos repeatedly and reading your comments, and I gotta say, you guys are mean. What did I do to you? My heart. I was recently, amidst support, slandered in my comments. You should be able to look to me as an infallible pillar of correctness, a paragon of rightness, a despot of intelligence, not as wrong. But some in my comments assert that I am somehow wrong. One of the many complaints I got was that my arguments were good, but the structure of my videos was incoherent. So for this video, I'm going to take that constructive criticism and use it to the best of my ability to make this video even more incoherent in structure. If it gets too messy, just try to look at each as an individual discussion and keep breathing. Delta1305 says, "What a ridiculous video. Your arguments are incoherent rambling at best, hypocritical and contradictory at worst. You complained that taking away a tank role means they hate pro tank players. Not everyone wants to become a pro player, by the way, and the game shouldn't be designed solely around the player base that does. But then suggested taking away an additional player, which would be from the support role. You decided to..." all over gold players, ignoring the fact that higher rank players have complained about similar issues and showing your own gameplay that hardly looks like it belongs near top 500. You say that the devs shouldn't neglect the tank and support roles that kept the game alive, but then advocate for the game becoming more DPS focused and more like a regular shooter. From what I can tell, the one good, concise argument you made was that support passive takes away strategy, which I do agree with, but the rest of the video was a big letdown for a title that promised an in-depth review into the design and philosophy of the game. Okay, imagine we're walking down a path and it has 3 lanes. The one on the left has soft, silky cushions, the one in the middle has literal spinning blades, and the one on the right is sharp gravel. I may want to stay left, but if you insist we go right, I will beg you to go as far right as possible. This does not contradict me wanting to be in the left lane, just because I'm saying go to the right. I even literally said, hey, I'd rather go left than this, but I brought up going more right because you were hell-bent on going right, and as it is, we are in the middle of the lane. I would love to walk through the soft cushions, but given you won't let us, I'd much rather go further right and walk through the gravel and not stay here in the spinning saw blades. Now, technically this analogy would be more accurate if I said we were 3 heads on one body, and each of us could feel everything, but only the middle head had control, and the middle head was Blizzard itself. But if I led with that, you'd probably think I'm insane. I am clearly sane. Also, you're mad. Look at how mad you are. Omit the actual points you made, and you're mad. Omit the mad, and you were just wrong. Too Epic for You says, the DPS passive was fine. You used Mercy against Genji as an example of something you believe is outrageous. I guess you forgot that Tracer and Genji received less than 1% of the speed passive benefit, while the support passive actually stacked with Mercy and Zen's passive heals. So that whole example you showed is constant even in Overwatch 1. The speed passive was not broken at all. It was literally perfect. I say that as a Genji main who, again, received less than 1% of the benefit. If the logic is that players can easily run away from damage, that's a far-fetched take considering you'd actually have to walk a good distance to even notice it. That's just wrong. I mean, it's not like supports don't have forgiving cooldowns that help them in situations when they need to run away, right? Moira has a 6-second iframe ability that gives her good vertical mobility and horizontal mobility. Lucio, I wish she didn't have the horizontal part. Lucio has wall ride and speed. Mercy has some of the highest mobility in the game, and we're with it every patch. Zen has the 3rd highest damage in the game. Ana has powerful... This doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. Ana has powerful cooldowns and can use range to her advantage. And is this just a rundown of every support? Brig has the new travel distance. Oh, yeah, he means the bash, as well as a whip on a 4-second cooldown. That brings me to another point. If you believe Brig needed cooldowns that were of equal value to the ones in Overwatch 1, you're when did I say that? When did I say any of this? Okay, I'm gonna skip the rest, not because it's not good or relevant, but because I only wrote stuff about this, the rest of it, I think. Okay, so when do I mention Genji? Here, I'll put up a clip of me mentioning Genji. Oh wait, there is none. It never happened. It's because I actually did remember this. Why then did I use the Genji clip? Well, it was the one Blizzard used when showing off the move speed changes. If you have an issue with that, talk to them. I actually respect Genji, like more than every other DPS in the game, aside from McCree, who I respect equally. Oh, also, you and me played the night you commented this. You okay, dude? All of these people got so defensive, and let me preface that by saying I hate when people baselessly throw around the "you're mad" argument. But I'm not doing it baselessly here. The fact that each of these comments is mean-spirited with little actual content is how I know you are upset. But to be honest, maybe I deserve it? My tone in these videos can often be condescending. But I just do it because it's funnier and more fun. Sorry for upsetting you, but given most of you are probably DPS mains... Man, these notes are out of order. Simpson says, the reality is that who the cared about the on-fire system in the long run? Lamau. The gold players on fire thing is a meme. Lamau. Like just winning a fight equals on fire. Like what? Just grab dragon. Isn't grab dragon useful? The whole point of, but guys, you need to do the things on the fire system to actually win the game, is the whole reason it's meaningless. What? You will, no matter what, do those things in any given fight or game. It's not really a meter of how well you do half of the time, just that you are actually playing the game. Lamau. Compared to a scoreboard, which actually lists how you are doing compared to the enemy team, at least stats-wise, does somewhat do this better. However, it is of course not the most accurate thing ever, because characters like Mercy and Lucio, for example, have other very important stat contributions like speed boosts and just pure positioning. On Lucio to do stuff like counter dives or set up engage, it isn't included on the board, but still it is far better. To start, your entire argument here is predicated on the idea that you will get on fire eventually no matter what, which is hilarious to me, given it's far from true, and I literally provided an example of this not being true during almost half of the video. So your entire argument falls apart immediately. but I'll pretend you are right and still counter the rest of it. If we pretend that your former statement was correct, and just look at your argument as a whole, then it really just boils down to, if you're going to get on fire, which you are, then it doesn't matter. Why? Why does you being assured of getting on fire, which again you aren't, even matter? Here, let me put it like this. You are guaranteed to get elims, damage/healing, and mitigate damage, so the new scoreboard doesn't matter. Nuh-uh, smart people will say. First off, you aren't guaranteed to, and more importantly, how much you do those is what is relevant here. Well, yeah, all of that, but for fire. I'm sorry, buddy, but this comment is just less intelligent than the people who comment bad take. At least they're being subjective, so I can't just say they're wrong. Appropriate Name says, 4v4 wouldn't solve literally anything, and No Limits is absolutely awful for the game when you realize having 6 of the same character, or 5, or even 4, means that the other team has to switch to another full comp of that hero's counter. A boatload of criticisms with very few, and even fewer good, solutions. Blizzard isn't doing very well, but you'd clearly do worse. Another role queue is... although role queue is... I think not locking you out of a class at the main menu, but soft lock the teams. Once you load in, all characters are available, but if someone picks 2 DPS, they're now unavailable with the option to swap with a teammate. This would 100% stop people from loading into a losing game and seeing the need for a healer and picking Widow instead. That got 7 likes. Name that accurately represents this comment says that No Limits is bad because you have to switch characters. Huh. I was under the impression that that was a staple of Overwatch already, but I'll provide a counter-argument as if it's not. When the first No Limits Ranked ever came out, I was actually not playing Overwatch at the time, and when I heard I had missed it, I was distraught. So the next year, when Season 2 of No Limits Ranked came out, I played it as much as I had time to. Sadly, I didn't have enough time to get the 50 games in, so I never got my T500 badge in the mode, but I was playing in that area. As I was doing so, I got stomped a couple times by this absolutely nasty duo queue, and so I decided to party up with them. See, when you lose but you actually do well, often the evening out factor of SR isn't just the matchmaking system, but the good players on the winning team recognizing your contribution. I'm bunny trailing. Oh yeah. So this trio became a quad queue eventually, and we won about 95% of our games. No, I'm not exaggerating. It was nasty. But there is an element to this I have kept secret from you until now. Remember, this is No Limits, and even if we put aside the silly assertion from the comment that stemmed this whole story, obviously in No Limits, even more power is given to you by the freedom you have in character choice. Meaning that having a larger hero pool and being able to understand who you should be on when is more integral to No Limits than it is to 222 role queue with no duplicates. Now what if I told you that the carry to our 4-stack, the one decimating literally every game, was a Bastion 1-trick? And I really mean a genuine 1-trick because he never, ever touched another character. Now mind you, given it's considered an arcade mode, I understand it is probably more of a mixed bag competition than normal ranked. Although, to be honest, ranked nowadays is kinda embarrassingly easy as well. Remember that this is still well within T500, so the competition should be fierce. This guy got along easily, solely playing Bastion, a testament to how actual skill, positioning, and game sense are honestly much, much more important than hero choice. And to draw all of this back to the comment, no suck, I think you are not only kinda delusional to think that hero swapping isn't important in normal Overwatch, You're just wrong to assert it's everything and no limits. L plus ratio. Furionic696 says, as someone who only ever dabbled in Overwatch 1, I feel like many people need something pointed out to them. Your digital character is not being marginalized or oppressed. Lamau. What is with these people and Lamau? But though of Reinhardt's parading for equality is very entertaining. Real thoughts and prayers incoming. Promise. Oh. Clearly you are getting caught up in the social connotation of this word, because you've forgotten what the word actually means. Actually, forgotten is giving you too much credit. It's likely you never knew. Now, I thought my content often was a little condescending in tone, given I often explain things more times than necessary for anyone above the intelligence of Cro-Magnon. But clearly, I underestimated the sheer level of stupid YouTube has to offer. I literally gave you the definition of marginalize and minority, both of which I used the Google definition for, as stupid people the world over seem to unanimously agree it can do no wrong.
Google is the smartest person in the world.
But somehow, you still couldn't fit the circle shape in the circle hole.
What is this then? What is this?
That is nothing! That is the Google images!
I'd refer you back to the definition of the words, then to my prior statement where I used said words, but let's be honest, you lost track of this sentence at I'd. And no matter what I say from here on, you're just not going to understand or care. Congratulations on your worldviews. Let's play the silent game for the rest of your life. Highest score wins. My only problem with the fire meter is most of the time I'm more busy paying attention to the game than it, so I barely notice it, and there's not reason to not have both it and a scoreboard, while neither are necessary at all, to tell if someone has been contributing to your team because A, your team would be winning, and B, as long as you're paying attention and you should know what the your team is doing and what's going on. So Blacklisted Pirate here was nice enough to not include weird insults in his comment, like a lot of people who disagreed with me on this stuff, and I appreciate that. This is one of the more sane counter-arguments I've gotten, but I still think it's an odd take. To begin, I already mentioned that paying attention to the fire system in its current state is sometimes too difficult to accurately track and can make you play worse if you become distracted from the game. So we actually agree on this. His later points, however, I think are based on a misconception some Overwatch players have. Your team would be winning, I think, is just an attitude some people have about stats in the first place. And while I think the way that Pirate phrases it here is wrong, I think the idea contribution shouldn't be your focus, winning should, isn't the worst ideology, just a bit flawed. Players will always focus on contribution to some degree, and while a lot of it isn't healthy, A, being able to refute what these players say by using an accurate system of assessing contribution is useful, and B, being able to understand your own shortcomings and why you lost a match is again useful. Moving on to Pirate's second point though, this one I can't vibe with at all. Way too many Overwatch players think this is true, and it's incredibly unhealthy for the game's community. While you can get some sense of other players' contributions, you have to remember it's a 12-player game, soon to be 10. Honestly, the best way to refute this is to cite the argument you made earlier, which was much more sound. You posit that paying attention to the fire system will impact your play negatively, and I agree on that. But checking fire is quick and easy. Babysitting your teammates and backseat gaming them to the point where you actually have a semi-accurate sense of how well they are doing will absolutely negatively impact your play. Again, there are 12 players, soon to be 10. If you genuinely know what your teammates are doing at most moments of the match, and not just have faith that they're doing their own jobs, you're probably feeding. I didn't rant on Pirate to pick on them specifically, it's just that Pirate brought this all up in a respectful way, and it is a shared misconception that I feel not enough players address openly. Stop backseat gaming. It's not healthy. Sure, if you backseat, you'll notice your teammates messing up a lot, but you'll miss you messing up a lot. Several of you made ad hominem attacks about my rank, which is honestly really funny to me, given I can literally prove I get T500 as a joke occasionally. Maybe don't insult someone's ideas just because of who they are. I'm sure golds genuinely have good ideas. At the very least, don't insult someone's rank till you see it, or you'll end up looking silly. Cosmic Owls asks, what rank are you? Well, thanks for asking. And owls are the best animal there is, no cap. I'm T500, see? Honestly, these numbers aren't even that high, and I know several people who put me to shame at this game. But before you people comment, I see you preparing that, yeah, lots of people are better than you, comment, you aren't. Person typing how bad I am, admit it. You are bad too. Now go sit in the shame corner and think about things. Hey, who said corner time is over? Speaking of which, a lot of you seem to think I have something against golds. And honestly, I'm not sure why. So for the golds and below, I'll use some playful examples. Gold must be pretty cruel to you. Gold is a tough rank, man. The trogs of gold. Oh. No guys. Okay, sure I used it as an insult here. But most of the time, the reason I'm talking about golds is because gold is the average rank. It's where most people will be, so when I'm talking about most players, I say gold. And yes, I'm not impressed with most players, but there's nothing wrong with being average. In fact, gold is my favorite rank. Here. Yeah, gold is genuinely just the best place to be. But part of that might be because I feel like a Greek hero masquerading as a common man. Speaking of which, y'all were like really funny with the whole bad gameplay thing. As an example, capital D : says, I love him saying gold is a tough rank, buddy, while I watch the most horrid diva gameplay I have ever witnessed. Face, you realize that in the same moment I make the gold comment, I literally 1v4, win, and take point, right? I have to be honest, if that's horrid gameplay to you, I'm impressed. You must not even need teammates, huh? No, on a serious note, I think it's funny how bad players are at recognizing good gameplay. Like, okay, I have a great example of what I mean. The idea is that high-level players often resemble low-level players more closely than average players. This is because in order to go from bad to average, a player must learn certain things about the game. While to contrast this, to go from average to good, the player must almost unlearn what they had previously learned, or more accurately, learn to instead of hold those truths to be always unwavering, instead come to draw the finest line possible between carrying and throwing. The better you are at extending, without overextending, the better you will do, essentially. This is why you will often see top-level players out of their depth when surrounded by average players, because they forget that the average players are so scared of chokes and overextension. Average players do not have the same game sense to understand when they should be pressing their advantage, so usually they don't. Now you may think that what I'm trying to say is, that's me in these games and that's why I did poorly, you just don't get it, but no. I actually was just using that as an example of a similar concept. In fact, I don't need to defend my playing because I absolutely decimated during these matches. Instead, I wanted to address something I was surprised nobody brought up, and I almost thought you did. But if you truly meant it this way, your wording was off. Let me start by explaining why I record my videos the way I do. My computer is okay. It is not good. Neither is my internet. This is why I don't stream or record Overwatch, at least not in the moment. If I did, my frame rate, or in the case of streaming, my frame rate and ping, would absolutely have a seizure. And personally, the pretty much only thing that truly tilts me is technical issues. Even the slightest frame rate issue or lag will severely impact my play, purely because I'm neurotic. Now, to address the footage I've used so far, If they don't seem like high-level games, it's because they aren't. These games are gold games. I thought it would be most appropriate to include matches of the most populated rank, because my video was to the public, not just to higher low-level players. Also, it's easiest to get footage of carrying when you are not playing against pros. In case you are curious, I'm top 500. I guess you could technically look at me as a retired top 500 because I don't bother to keep any accounts in top 500. I actually stopped playing any of my high level accounts a long time ago, but I came back for a while just to check if I was washed up, and it turns out I wasn't. Somehow I got top 500 on DPS. Mind you, it wasn't end of the season top 500, but you have to understand, I have the aim of a paraplegic squirrel. DPS is by far my worst role. I got T500 playing specifically Reaper and Symmetra. If you think this is easy, and these are crutch characters, I encourage you to do it yourself. No, you won't though, will you? You're Hardstuck Master's widow. Don't cry because I don't have to aim. Cry because you aren't smart enough to not need to aim either. No, but seriously, I'm at least decent at the game. Now, to what this entire rant was heading towards, had your comment said, these don't look like high-level games, I would have been like, oh, this guy is actually good too. He could tell just from watching. To be honest, I don't actually think you need to be that good to notice that, but it still would have garnered a compliment from me. On the other hand, you saying, you don't look high-level, implies that you mean you can't even tell I'm tearing these poor golds to shreds, which, similar to the not being able to understand game state thing I mentioned earlier, implies you aren't good enough at the game to truly understand it. I smurf in gold constantly. That is the main way I play the game nowadays. And it's funny how often I see this sentiment. Players who aren't good at the game seem to believe they understand the game better than anyone. The number of self-righteous plats, hell, the percentage of plats that are self-righteous and think they are infallible far exceeds the number of grandmasters who think they are infallible. It takes humility to improve. That's why I'm better than you, because I know I'm garbage. I have yet to meet a good Overwatch player. Maybe one day. Move your turret, move your turret. Guys, I get it. Listen, okay, you may wonder why is this supposedly T500 sim putting all her turrets in the same spot. That is so much easier to kill than if you spread them out. Is she just stupid? Well, listen, because I'm gonna explain some reasoning here. Feel free to keep spreading your turrets, but in my opinion, this typically works better. The reason my turrets all normally go into the same place is a finicky little concept known as LOS, and another fun little concept known as the element of surprise. Now, I expect most of you as Overwatch players know what LOS is, but in case you don't, LOS is line of sight. It refers to what you can see or what someone else can see. What is relevant here is two things: who can see the turrets and who the turrets can see. Now, if you spread your turrets out, you'll find that your turrets go down slower. People have to shoot up to 3 different spots, and that's great. But I often find that your turret's lethality is severely nerfed with this method. Why is that? Simply put, if your turrets are not all in the same place, they do not all have the same LOS. This often means you run into a problem where an enemy meets the LOS of 1 or 2 of your turrets before all 3 can see them. And when this happens, the damage they take is, obviously, either 1/3 or 2/3 of what it could be. And because they are taking less damage, they have more time to react, with either bullets or backing off. Now, if your turrets all see them at the exact same moment, bam! Full 3 turret damage, all applied in the same moment, with only moments to react before death. Admittedly, I don't even always do this, and there are several spots on maps where I do spread out my turrets. Also, there are likely spots on maps where turrets can pretty optimally see people at the same moment, and still be spread out a bit. But 3 things. First, more often than not, Places you think all 3 turrets have the same LOS do not, and you will be let down because of some weird angle. Second, these places are probably not super common. I mean, who knows? And third, yeah, I really don't care. I'm not going to sit around and find the optimal spot. I may have been the kind of guy to occasionally watch a Cypher setup where you had to throw your cage onto a ceiling-mounted light or something, but I didn't really practice any of those, and I certainly wasn't the type of guy to go find them myself. My relationship with Overwatch has honestly been pretty casual, despite the success I've seen with it, and labbing perfect spots just isn't my thing. If you want to show me some, sure, whatever, but for now I'm good with melting Pharahs before they have time to react, even with all 3 turrets in the same spot. Patrick says, "You probably want bullet penetration too, through walls and people with reduced damage depending on the cover's material." And he says, "You can always just play a different game." Okay, so to adjust the first one, no, that's a weird thing to say. And you could always watch a different YouTube video. Bro, what is it with no PFP people roasting me with, like, I like game you bad? Revan says, "I personally like 5v5 things actually die." Oh, I personally like 5v5 things actually die. Okay, it's not a death threat. This guy commented this before the new goats hit Overwatch 2, but boy is he gonna be sad soon. Expect more on my opinions on Overwatch 2 gameplay once Overwatch 2 comes out, but consider this former response a sneak peek, kinda. Seductive Raven says, "I know basic logic." Seductive Raven is already well ahead of the curve by knowing basic logic. Jaden Maggard says, "Anti-Blizzard propaganda." What? I mean, yeah, I could probably get behind not liking Blizz, I guess. I mean, there was that whole, you know, continued assault thing. But, like, from a game's perspective, I'd say it's a love-hate relationship because Blizz makes really, really good games and does their best to absolutely butcher them. Aw, ZOMG, I knew something was up. Seems your comment disappeared. But lucky for you, I'm paranoid because I have terrible memory and people used to gaslight me on things they'd said. So now I take pictures of things to prove people have said things. So I still have it. ZOMG15 says, hey look, it's Giorno. At this point, you people are starting to sound like Overwatch conservatives. It's time to admit you are just deathly afraid of any change and want to complain about it at any point. Which could also be why this video is so full of words, yet says pretty much nothing we haven't heard before. Also, 803, still refusing to call him Cassidy just proves that you refuse to let go, and also support abusers. I saved this specifically, well, first of all, I thought it was funny, and it's sad people just say stuff like this when abuse is an actual problem. People sure are hateful and stupid, kind of way. But I actually wanted to address why I specifically use the names McCree or Cassidy. It's simple. McCree has the stun, Cassidy has the sticky. If you don't like my headcanon, don't read. No haters allowed. This is my McCree Cassidy fanfic, and your hate isn't welcome here. But yeah, for real, if you hear me say one of the names in the future, that's how I refer to the cowboy. And no, saying a video game character's former name doesn't make you support abuse. Gosh, I hate social politics. They're so simple, and yet everyone still has no clue how to not be a terrible person. Ryan says, this video aged like milk. No, I'd say this video still holds up. The game still has the design philosophy issues I brought up. I like oranges. Oh, no, wait, no. One Ike, Zero Ranges says, 1. Game is still in beta. 2. You sound like you're invited to every party. People love complainers. Huh. This comment reminds me of a word. What was it? Hippopotamus, hippocampus. Oh, hypocrite, that's it. And to actually address the part of this comment that was a 9 on the Richter scale of stupidity rather than a 10, it is okay to criticize things, even in beta. If we don't ever criticize things, how will anyone ever know what we like? If I locked you in a dark room, I'm pretty damn sure you'd start complaining. But why? Guess you're just a complainer, as is evidenced by your comment. A regular generic name says, people must also love you then. What a Chad. Shotgunner says, at this point I think you are trolling and want to complain. The on-fire system was just a cool feature and didn't mean the endgame card system, medals, and fire only get bad players' egos up and help ruining the overall Overwatch experience. Thank God they're getting rid of it. Obama Prism responds, bro, he did an in-depth explanation of the fire system, and you're going to disregard it because you don't understand/value the system. He also said medals and cards were bad for the game, so at least you understand that. How does the fire system makes bad players think they're good? It literally tracks people's contribution to the match, so if you're on fire, you're doing good. Okay, so I was originally gonna let Obama Prism do the talking here, because Shotgunner didn't really say anything here, to be honest. Like, there's just not much of a discussion to be had here, and Obama Prism already did enough. But I actually think Shotgunner's reasons the fire system are bad is something I can actually respond to. So Shotgunner goes on to say, some flaws in the on-fire system. If players on the enemy team are being dumb and never grouping up, it affects the on-fire, slowing it down, or the opposite in a very awkward way. What affects your on-fire meter changes a ton from character to character, and some of them get on fire in very gimmicky ways. It's not balanced. Anyone can get on fire as long as they spam even a tiny amount of damage on enemies, not contributing to teamfights at all and getting a false impression that they are. In any PvP game, players are very stubborn on reflecting on their own gameplay, always going defensive first. In Overwatch, it gets a lot worse because of those three systems that give the false impression that you are doing well. Very good examples of this are hit scan in general, and just spam the easiest in the game, and get status without doing anything, Moira players with damage status, Mercy/Mercy with heal status, and of course, Genji players that won't do then farm the three systems with one nano blade. All of those above are bad not only for the game, but most of all for themselves and these systems encouraging that. I'll go in order, just consider them numbered. 1, this is why I said fire is best looked at in a relative way. The amount of fire you can get is tethered directly to how everyone in the match plays, but you are all in the same match. So basically, in a fast-paced game, you can be on fire a long time and still not be doing that great because everyone else is on fire longer than you, and in a slow-paced game, maybe you only got on fire twice, but you were one of the only players to get on fire, so that means you may have been carrying. I already stated this, but I didn't put it in baby terms, so I apologize. 2? No, it really doesn't. Honestly, one of the best things about the fire system is that it gives fire out to everyone equally. You and someone else do the exact same thing, and you're getting the exact same fire. Now, a few heroes can do stuff that other characters literally cannot, so you have a point there, but you don't actually, because there's no way to compare that to anyone else outside of the fire system. Of course, trying to compare these things won't be perfect, but I already said that. And guessing is better than nothing. 3, I literally already addressed the anyone can get on fire argument, and no, it's not true. At least not in the way you mean it. Dealing small bits of damage doesn't give you fire. Do you realize that? You clearly don't. Fire is granted based on percentage of damage done to someone after they die. Using your method, you absolutely won't get on fire. I encourage you to go out and try to get a ton of time on fire average without upranking. You won't. 4, oh, this guy is a hit scan / Moira / Mercy / Genji hater. Well, that's an odd combo. And considering I greatly respect a few hit scan characters, greatly respect Mercy play, and greatly respect Genji play, higher than just about every other DPS character, bad take, L+ ratio. With a dance number says, comment section full of yes men. Can't be serious, right? I mean, you've read through at least a couple of these comments, I assume, right? Are you specifically just ignoring negative ones? You can't honestly say the comment section is full of yes men says, great video, and the background being used is fantastic. Oh, I guess it is. Huh. Lynx says, as a player who competes and coaches competitively, this has literally zero impact on the game. It doesn't matter. It is never brought up in scrims, matches, or even ranked. It doesn't shed any identity from the game. It still plays the same way. This makes literally no sense to me. I forgot this feature existed. Platinum Altaria says, does having people play the game still matter? Because this sort of thing is how you get 9-hour queue times in Plat. Lynx responds saying, so you're telling me that not having the on fire function will decrease the player base dramatically enough that your queue times will be unbearable? I'm sorry, but this argument makes no sense to me. Platinum was smart enough not to respond to this person a second time, but I'm here to make the mistake of continuing this communication. Okay, if we are gonna use big cool accomplishments to talk about why our opinions matter, as someone who has been in the top 5 of open division teams without scrimming a single time because we were too busy and casual to bother, who has made quadruple digits money in this game off of tournaments alone, who has been an associate coach solely on referral even though I didn't really have time for the job, and who has been able to consistently get top 500 when I want it, even on my worst role, this is a dumb take. Your argument makes sense on its own, but the issue is that it doesn't really have anything to do with what I said during the video. But I'll play nice and follow your train of thought, because that's typically how arguing works. You realize I literally said that the fire system becomes somewhat irrelevant beyond Diamond, and even outside of Gold it can still be decently fallible, right? So either one of two things is happening here. Either you didn't catch me saying any of that, shame on you, but at the end of the day, who cares? Just listen before you comment next time. Or the team you are coaching for / on is Submaster. Oh no. That isn't something you should be bragging about. At least not here. Okay, I know I'm being harsh, but seriously, this comment is whack. Good on Platinum for actually making some sense. Yes, you were right in your second comment to imply that the fire system is likely to not have a massive impact on the game, but it's pretty evident you tactically ignored Plat's actual argument here, that it is good for the game and any little bit helps. If we use your logic, then we could just remove several quality of life aspects from the game. Who cares? Not those in tournaments. Bradley Wade says, the fire system doesn't matter. It was just another thing to add to dumb players' toxicity. I'm on fire, so I have gold damage, so same thought. Prima Murgerbis says, did you watch the full video? Well said, Well said, Murgerbis. Well said. I think in the end, though, a comment made by another person in a smallish thread really says it all. Still Not Chill says to Moneybags, he, another person in this thread, has no idea what he's talking about. We shouldn't waste our breath. Well, still, I know you didn't say this to me, but I think I could learn a thing or two from you. I really doubt any of what I said here got through to any of the people who commented these things, but I also think it wasn't in vain. At the end of the day, I think modern discussion may be unhealthy in that nobody is willing to listen to their opposition's point of view, but that doesn't mean nobody will listen. Maybe, just maybe, there are people who are willing to listen to everything anyone says on a topic, and who are smart enough, open-minded enough, and introspective enough to come to their own conclusions about these things. Personally, from what I can tell, There are a ton of people like that. A lot more than we give people credit for nowadays. It's just easy to miss them when the less reasonable yell louder. It'd be easy at this point to think I'm really upset with my comments and feel really hurt or sad. I'll admit, at some point before the second video, maybe I felt this way a bit, but as of right now, I couldn't feel the opposite more strongly. So many of you have been so kind in the comments. Comments telling me to keep it up, comments telling me you want to see me branch out, comments sharing my love for things, comments sharing your own unique perspectives with me. You've really drowned out the hate, and while it's still there, it's only really good for laughs at this point. When I go to check what you guys have said, I always feel really happy and excited about the future of this channel. From now on, I'm hoping to do stuff that will lead to less heated debate. Honestly, let's be real, it's still gonna happen, but this will be the only time I address it. You see what trying to address it even once does to me? This is why the video turned out so poorly, by the way. I'm feeling better though. Like I said, seeing a lot of genuinely deranged arguments and flawed logic made me want to debunk it at some point, but at this point, I'm just tired and happy. And that makes me want to do stuff on things you guys, the people who support what I've made so far, will enjoy. So if this is like a sequel to my last two videos, don't expect another video like this. I'm moving on. Okay, I know how long this has gotten, and again, originally I wrote an outro that was obscenely long, and who even likes outros? So I'm gonna speedrun it. I have a send-off video for Overwatch planned. I'll miss it. So nice of Blizz to give me the birthday present of making my big day the only day of the year Overwatch is completely unplayable. I have a Patreon, don't think I deserve it yet, but Will insists, and I could use the help. Was gonna make a $1 tier, but Patreon begged me to set the lowest tier to $3, so I'll let that be the highest and lowest. Keep me alive if you want, link in bio. I made a Discord, give it some time, it probably sucks, link in bio. Please go check out my buddy Will's Twitch. None of this would have been possible without him. I'm literally using his editing software right now. He's a really good guy, and you'll probably get to see a lot of me too, so go check him out. Link in bio. Don't hate the people from the video. They need love and kindness, clearly. Next two videos, hopefully this month. One tiny, different, one analysis. Hooray, the timeline works. I love you all. Flounder. Benji is us. Mechanized Beast. Ben Hailu. Clanker R6. Keg. Kentaroni. Sir Surreal. Omega Rift. By the way. Starkill 5555. Benson J. ARENT. Chloe. Thank you.